This is Jessica and Debbie. Welcome to Be On It.
Hey Jessica, what's going on in the Beehive today?
I was just thinking about our first episode that we're doing today on friendship and just the different variety of friendships I've had over the years and the meaningful, even if they were short term or long term or toxic, all of them impacted me in some way. And I learned so much from them.
This is a great opportunity to think about friendship because I really haven't had the chance to dissect what friendship is and the qualities of friendship that make it so inherently special and necessary for life.
It's like there's some people I connect with on a deeper level, and then there's others that just come into my life for just a season. And some people I'm more of acquaintances, but I still kind of know who they are, know their families, but I never do anything outside of wherever I know them from. It doesn't go deeper than that.
Yeah. And we're always going to have those types of acquaintance friendships in our lives because it takes time to get to know somebody. So whether it be in the workplace or just through your life routine, you're going to make a lot of acquaintances, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
the
for
people
sure.
that you just say hi and bye to or get down to business and say what you need. But then when we're talking about friendships, I feel like it's a step deeper.
I think you find a commonality. Maybe you invite them to go have coffee. We got to know each other and, went and had coffee and then it progressed from there. But you got to put yourself out there if you feel like there's something deeper worth exploring in that friendship.
So do you think you have to somehow just establish a baseline?
I do.
Do you feel like you need to establish that first before you go on to the next step?
I do. I feel like because I'm always cautious, I just want to kind of fill it out, especially with acquaintances or people I might meet at a party. Sometimes I have instant connections and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're really cool. I totally hang out with them. And I'll put myself out there, but nothing ever comes of it. So there is always that fear of rejection, but you kind of got to get past it. You're going to get rejected. People aren't going to connect with you like you think you're connecting with them. So when you do find that person that you connect with on a deeper level, it's really cool and special, and you just kind of keep fostering it. But you do have to make that effort to, keep that friendship going. You have to make plans to get together again and see how it goes. And eventually maybe they come to your house and they meet your family or whatever it may be. You just have to keep it going. Everything takes work.
I feel like between you and I, we were just kind of in passing and having convos at work. I kind of got to know you a little better. I was thinking to myself, wow, this person's really positive and then also really reliable too. You get to know certain qualities about people just in the very small details of your interaction. And you don't want to obviously hang out with somebody if they're very flaky.
Right, exactly.
I feel like there has to be some character qualities that are strong and help me to trust them.
Right, I think trust. You're right. Trust is a big one. You have to feel comfortable, and trust is such a
huge.
It's huge. I think you have to get that sense that you can trust this person. If you make plans, are they going to show up or are they going to flake and cancel on you? Right. I guess you're going to discover that the very first time you go out, and then. Does that mean that you try again? Or maybe they really did have a legitimate reason and do try again, but like the old saying goes, hurt me once, shame on you, hurt me twice, shame on me. Yeah, you don't let people keep hurting who you are if they're not reliable or trustworthy.
I'm sort of an introvert and I'm careful just like you are. I have to see those qualities first before I go further because, we're busy. We have our families and other obligations. I want to invest into somebody. I have to be sure that I want to trust in that person's character. Yeah. I need to see that before I take the next step.
Oh, I totally agree because I think it's so hard as an adult to make friends. I think it's hard because you have to put yourself out. And people, I think you're right. People have their own things going on. When I was a kid, I had a hard time too. I was scared to put myself out there. And I remember my dad telling me, just go over, because I lived in a neighborhood and it wasn't full of a lot of houses. It was kind of a commercialized area. And we just kind of moved onto the block. And I knew one person that lived on the block, and then some new people moved in, and the person that I was best friends with was a boy. And I remember when sisters moved into the neighborhood, and so my dad's like, just put yourself out there and go knock on their door and introduce yourself. And I remember feeling so frightened and scared, but one day I just did it organically. They were outside and I went up to them and introduced myself, and we were friends for, the short time that they lived in the neighborhood.
So you put yourself out there
I put
first.
myself out there
Okay,
first.
yeah.
Sometimes you just have to do that. Even if it's not your comfort zone, you have to push past it. But it was hard for me as a like grade school level child. And then middle school, I connected through classes and things like that. You kind of get a sense of who people are and by answering questions in classes and stuff like that. And you just vibe with people a little bit more. And so I ended up meeting friends that way. And I had a great group of friends that I'd had since grade school. And then I found a new friend that came, she was new to the school, and we became best friends and hung out on a regular basis. She came to my house, I came to her house. We just did all sorts of fun things together and still did fun things with other friends that I might not have been as close to, but we still like would hang out on a regular basis, but just not best friend level.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like, is it easier to be a friendly person and make friends when you're younger, or is it easier to do it as you get older?
I think it's easier when you're younger.
You do?
I think that growing up was a different time. I think that on the playground, and you get an idea
But
of
I
who
feel
people
like-
are.
Yeah. I think I had a couple of best friends, but then I felt like it was close up to a point. Because I think that at that point I couldn't be totally like vulnerable, because I
Right.
think I was kind of embarrassed about certain things about my house or whatever, and so it was friendship up to a certain point.
Right, and I agree. I had that too. Like, I most certainly didn't share what was going on in my household.
Yeah.
That's just, I think, also the era that we grew up in. Be
Yeah.
seen and not heard. You don't talk about your family business. That's just not something I shared with my friends as when I was younger, ever.
And I feel like as young children, I feel like the propensity is to stay positive. I never wanted to shroud the conversation in anything negative.
Right.
And we kind of lacked the maturity anyways, but we
Right.
could have, like, I remember this friend, I'll just call her Jay, back when I was in elementary and middle school. I considered her my best friend, and we hung out a lot at school, but we really didn't hang out outside of school. I think I was kind of embarrassed to have a friend over, but like, come to find later, she would say little things about her parents fighting and so forth, and she had her own issues, and
Yeah.
so did I.
Yeah.
And we could have bonded that way. We could have been supportive for each other that way, but we never went there. For whatever reason, I didn't want to put any negative a spin on things.
Right.
It just was like, let's keep it positive and let's not talk about anything negative, and definitely let's not be vulnerable, because that's kind of embarrassing.
Well, I'm with you there. And I think it's also because I think you do that because you don't want to talk about the hurt you're going through. When you're with
Yeah.
your friend, that's bringing you joy. And so it's just not something that ever was brought up. Although with my best friend, I do remember witnessing his dad get a little violent with him. He'd get frustrated with him, and I'd be over there, and it was really awkward. His dad would just get so frustrated with them and like just grab him by the like shirt and yell at him. And I just remember how awkward it was for me being over there. So I witnessed things, but we did not talk
I
about
was just
it.
going to ask, did you question him about it, or...
Never. We just
Inquire.
would go upstairs afterwards and play, and I would
Oh,
just
wow.
try to be easy on him because I had an understanding of what that was like. Yeah, it was an unspoken understanding, but he is the only one that I experienced that with because we were so close and we grew up on the same block and our parents were friends. It's just very interesting how you don't even always have the words for it as a kid. It's in your head, and how do you console somebody? Like, they're embarrassed.
Right.
They're embarrassed when something like
So
that
that-
happens in front of their friend.
You feel embarrassed. You don't want to be embarrassed in front of a friend, but then now that I have more emotional lingo and language, would you say that was shame?
I'm sure.
In the process of us growing up, I'm just thinking, I always want to kind of look back and think about, have I been just really basically enveloped in shame, and where I have to wear the cloak of shame all the time? And so I'm wondering how I got indoctrinated to that.
Well, I think it is truly because we came from that era of don't talk about your
But
family
why
business.
though? Even as a young child, we know this is what's normal
Right.
and this is what's not normal.
But people didn't talk about it with their
But-
friends. They
but-
talked about it maybe with their siblings. You might have had your own experiences and not, talked about it. But yeah, I think it's because of that generation. Our generation of boomer parents came from very strict, you don't talk about family business, you stuff your feelings. And so it was ingrained in me to not really talk about that stuff. And when I was with my friends, I wanted to have fun. I wanted to forget about my problems. I wanted to just be a kid and have pure joy. And that's what my friendships brought. That kind of brought the reality to forefront when things like that went on. When I was over, visiting with him at his house, and we grew up on the same block, we'd stayed at each other's houses. He didn't see that on my side of things. I only saw it on his side of things because my dad would never do that in front of anybody. He always wanted to look good in front of everybody. So it was very much putting up a facade for people, whereas his dad didn't care.
Thinking about a couple things. First of all, when we're younger, we always want to be in the present, the here and now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we want to have a joyful time with this friend, and we're not thinking about the future, likely. We're not thinking about the past. We're just thinking about now, and we're enjoying each other's company and doing the fun things or the enjoyable things that we're doing. But then I'm also thinking about not being open. If you are putting up a facade in front of somebody, it's not very authentic, and so you're portraying a certain side that you're okay showing to other people. I was best friends with somebody, but it wasn't really my true self.
Well, that's exactly
Now
true.
that I
I
think
was
about it.
masking, and I didn't have a word for that as a kid. I just was embarrassed about what was going on, and it was so ingrained not to share it. And so that's whenever I was hanging with my friends, I didn't tell them about what was going on. It was just, let's go have fun, and it was an escape. You're right, very much an escape.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how I've been habituated not being 100% open with people. And so I think as an adult, I really put a lot of importance on trust, because I think that I feel the best and the most free, liberated, and just raw when I'm like open and vulnerable with another person. But I'm not going to even go there with somebody unless I trust them.
For sure. I think that I did have that openness to a certain extent whenever I'd see my sister after my parents divorced, but not as little kids. I didn't have that ability to articulate that as a little kid, but we would discuss some things, because we would discuss some things as a kid. If my mom behaved a certain way, my sister and I had that personal discussion because we knew what was going on in our households. But I never had that discussion with friends because I just didn't feel like it was a safe space. Eventually, as an adult, I think I still kept that. I think it wasn't until you and I became friends that I didn't realize I was doing that. And maybe this prevented me from going deeper in friendships. But once I realized I was behaving that way and masking like my full self, being open with people, everything changed. People saw me in a different way. People saw, oh my gosh, this person's real. They have real emotions, they've had real experiences. And so opening yourself up and being vulnerable really just lets people see who you truly are. There's no hiding things.
Yeah.
You don't want people to feel like you're hiding something.
Right. I mean, whereas maybe you brought 40% of yourself, now in certain relationships, you can bring 100% of yourself.
Right. Like, I can tell you things and you're like, okay, and we can discuss it, and it's very therapeutic. And I can tell a therapist too, and I can tell my husband because we've been together long enough. But I never had these real conversations with my parents about the past traumas, and I never really had these deep conversations with my sister about how she hurt me. And so it's very interesting. I started reflecting and looking at and examining these things, that I was able to have these real open, honest, hard conversations that I didn't hide anything. I was talking about all the things I felt. Mm-hmm. And they didn't realize that they had caused that kind of pain.
You mean with your parents?
Parents, my sister. Yeah. Very interesting when you always speak your truth and you're always authentic.
Yeah. And sometimes that could cause a floodgate of emotions to come through if you haven't done that before.
Oh, for sure. Especially when people aren't holding themselves accountable. Like parents aren't going to always hold themselves accountable. Like, they don't see it. I was a great parent. Actually, no, you really weren't. And here's the reasons why.
Maybe in your own perception you thought you were.
I did carry that facade. Oh, I know I carried that facade in a lot of friendships. I didn't go to that deeper level where I would share that hurt that I experienced as a kid. But I would listen to them, and if they wanted to share their hurt, if somebody shared their hurt, I might have shared that I didn't have great parents growing up, but I might not have went into detail about what that was. It had to be a safe space, but
Yeah.
that was not very often that I had a safe space that I could, share that with.
We touched on trust, and now I think we're talking about empathy.
Empathy, for sure.
You need empathy in a friendship,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you're talking about really delicate, fragile subjects like past trauma, because you're not going to be willing to open up to somebody if you don't think that they can relate to you.
Right. It's very
And then they'll just blow it off like, oh yeah, okay. Like, and this is something really important and has been a burden on you for your childhood into your adulthood. And then if somebody just superficially says, oh, next subject, like, where should we go for dinner? Then, oh, that would just feel horrible.
And that's happened to me in the past because they had great parents, so they really couldn't relate. I shared something and then I stopped because they couldn't relate. So you do kind of stop from sharing your whole self. You're opening yourself up, and most of my adulthood, I had a wall up. And it was a protector. No one wants to not feel heard. If I felt like that with a friend, I just wouldn't share that again. I wouldn't share anything more. We would just keep it at a different level.
Right. Or what would you call it? Like, it's a limitation.
It's a limitation on that friendship.
Right. Because you know that person really can't reciprocate.
Right.
And
that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It is what it is. If a person did not have a traumatic past, an idyllic childhood, how could that person relate or be supportive to somebody who was sharing their feelings about a tough childhood? I'm just thinking how another person without those same experiences can be empathetic and relate to somebody who's sharing.
I think empathy's key.
But how could somebody, in practical terms, be empathetic to you?
For me, saying this is a safe space and I'm so glad that you felt comfortable to share that with me, and then I'm really sorry you had to go through that. I'm here for you if you ever need to talk. I care about you, I care about our friendship, and thank you for being so honest and open to sharing and being vulnerable. I think that would be lovely to hear, because then that would be like, okay, I can trust them. They actually do care, even if they didn't go through that same experience. I do think that everybody learns from everyone, and just because you had the most amazing childhood doesn't mean you can't learn something from somebody that didn't, and vice versa. Because I most certainly learned from my friends' parents that were wonderful. An eye-opening of how to be a great parent, right? Like what I would want to do as a parent. I liked these attributes in people, and this is how I would want a parent.
So, in the vein of thinking about how to be practically supportive of somebody who's sharing of themselves, whatever it may be, it might be about their current marriage, it might be about their insecurities, as you say, just creating that circle, that safe space for that person, and welcoming that person's story. Because their story is unique to them. That's what would feel supportive to you as somebody who's willing to share.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, and being a good listener, too,
Being a good listener.
Really listening.
Being present.
Yeah,
is a big
asking
one.
questions is necessary, right? And you can kind of judge, judge how much you want to ask and how much that person is willing to share. Because if you ask something that's a little too intrusive, then that person may say, oh, I don't think I'm going to go there. And then you can back off. But at least you're allowing that person to bring their authentic self forward.
Oh, it's very interesting when you reflect back about all your different kind of friendships, and even toxic friendships that didn't start off as toxic, but eventually I had to end because they were no longer healthy. They were not serving me.
Yeah.
And I don't want somebody that's going to bring me down in a negative way when I'm trying to be positive. When I'm trying to live the best life and take care of kids at the time, and it's really hard. So yeah, it was a hard decision, and I still miss certain things I did with that person, and I learned a lot, but it just was no longer serving me. And so those are always hard to make, those decisions that you have to end a friendship. No one wants to do that, and it's really sad when it comes to that.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I haven't had to do one in a while, so.
Yeah, it's been a few years, and I haven't had to do one in quite some time. And you learn to
vet. Vet.
You do. You kind of just learn certain personalities and what that looks like, so that you don't get attracted to that kind of friendship.
Yeah, I think as you get older or you experience different people and different relationships on different levels, you understand like this is what I'm comfortable allowing into my life and this is what I'm not. So I'm going to keep that person as an acquaintance unless things change.
And I think all that's okay. Whether you have an acquaintance or, a sometime friend is what I like to call it, it's all great. Like sometimes it's nice to have a variety of different styled friends.
Yeah.
Because you have the entertainment friends, you have the ones that you just go do fun things with, and then you have friends that you can go on a deeper level with, and then you have acquaintance friends that you see on occasion or that you work with and that when you talk to at work and they share things with you and you share things with them, but it doesn't have to go any deeper than that. It's all lovely.
Yeah. We're learning from each other.
We're always learning from one way or another.
But I think that like we are learning from each other if we actively engage in the learning. If we just are just there and like just going through the motions and really don't have a chance or don't pause to process and reflect, then we're not learning. I think that what's cool about having a deeper relationship with somebody is that you can kind of advise and mentor each other.
I feel like we've been great mentors for one another. And it's been so healing in so many ways. You're a great sounding board. What do you think? Just in so many aspects, like the things that I've had to deal with my dad, and you and your sister have been great sounding boards for advice. I just would normally ask my husband, and he had great parents, so he doesn't always offer the best advice because he just doesn't know. You have that understanding, and it's really nice to be able to bounce ideas off and then, figure out what I want to do as an end result. I always like to ask a lot of questions because I want to make sure that I'm not thinking from a space that isn't a positive space. Even if it's hard things to talk about, I don't want to be closed-minded. I want to be open to ideas. Even if it's hard to hear, I'm always open to growth and open to ideas.
It's good to have a close relationship with another person because you can hear somebody else's perspective and be okay with the honesty that comes forward. Going back to just this topic of friendship, I know we talked about trust, honesty, empathy, listening, and I think we've also touched on communication too. Obviously, we have to communicate with each other to exchange ideas and feelings. When you are cultivating a relationship with somebody about something deeper, do so verbally. Text is really hard. In-person conversation is really important, and you need to take time to have these in-person conversations.
Oh, I mean, even if you don't live in the same city, FaceTime works better than a text.
Yeah.
Text doesn't always convey the emotion, and you can read it wrong, and it shows you care.
You get that real-time validation, or you get that real-time honesty.
Yeah. This has been really good. Talking about all the various dissections of friendships.
I'm really glad to have this conversation too, to think about friendship, because friendship is really important. Really important. I do really see the value of having a lot of those positive friendships around as you're growing up, because it's just a cool synergy for young people.
I always told the kids, I go, you want to hang out with people that build you up and you build each other up, not tear you down. Those are the kind of friendships that are positive, healthy friendships.
And at the same time, you're going to obviously have conflicts with people.
And that's okay. That's a part of learning.
Yeah, it is. It can be very painful.
Exactly.
Just that navigating of conflict, I think, is super important. Instead of just shunning it.
Well, gosh, I think we're coming to an end here. But if you guys want to stay tuned for our next episode too.
See you then.
Just so you know, this is for entertainment purposes only. We are speaking from our lived experiences and are not licensed therapists.
Enjoy the bloopers. And we're having a hard time developing or starting or creating those friendships. How do we, and we know they're important, how do we get from here to there, which is there being, how do we start making friends?
Sorry. This is Jessica. This is our episode of Be On It, where we're going to talk about friendship.
Hey, hi, this is Debbie. Jessica? Okay, sorry, can we start?
It's hard.